almost there. No way. What is this? You're tuned in to the Eyes Open podcast, where secrets aren't safe and we see it all.
Now, one thing I'll never claim to have is all the answers. And I think that's a big issue with content creators out there, or maybe the way they're being perceived by the public is that they have all the answers. They don't. I don't. Nobody does. The only person who knows everything, who will be the ultimate foreseer of everything in the future, and is the only person that's going to help you in the end, is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And that's it. That's who I lean on for understanding. Like the Bible says, I lean not on my own understanding. I lean on him for understanding. So a lot of the times when people are like, I've said before, I don't have a crystal ball. You know, I go based simply off of pattern recognition of things I'm seeing. Numerology. I study how the people in power operate. Okay, I can see how they operate. So when you have been not only around these people and see how they operate, but you can see you have pattern recognition of what they do. It all plays out the same. So in that context, you can see things before they unfold. So it's not predicting the future, it's not prophecy. It's simply being able to recognize the patterns that they seem to run with. And also, to be honest with you, as I've told you guys before, it's in the movies. They put it in the movies, they put it in the TV shows. If you watch certain movies and TV shows, even ones that aren't about, you know, a full-on conspiracy, or they're not like some underlining plot about it, you'd be surprised at the stuff. Even in comedies, I've seen them throw dates out there and talk about events that ended up happening. It's very common. I've seen it a lot. And as we've spoken before, it's, you know, revelation of the method, they call it, which is pretty much your consent is by them telling you and you doing nothing about it. So essentially, that's why today's episode is called What Are We Gonna Do? No pun intended. Because these droughts, the whole water situation that we're going to get into today and we're going to talk about in depth more is very alarming. And I don't think people are taking it serious enough, to be honest with you. But before we get into today's show, I haven't in a little while given a shout out, but I always put it in the comments. Big shout out to our sponsors over at Prima. They've been monumental in what they've done for the show and myself. This is also something I personally eat myself. I love their protein bars. Cookie dough's actually, their cookie dough flavor is my favorite. But it's like they say on this box, it says, eat like we did before. Because there's no garbage in this. It's actually sweetened with real honey. No ingredients to hide if you look into it. But check out the link in the comments. You'll get a 15% off promo. Also, I've had a lot of people reach out about the Haven hat, which I'm wearing right now, Haven. So shout out to Haven too. I have some things in the works right now with potentially getting a sponsorship through them. So if you guys still want the link, I'll send it to you. It's not about the money. I don't care if you use my link or not. I was just having you guys wait to get the hats because you're going to get a nice little promo for anything you buy on their site. And it's wild, man. They have everything from, like I said, blankets to hats to shirts to clothing. They have it all. And somebody was talking on one of the reels I did the other day and was talking about, now when I say, oh, I got my tinfoil hat on, I didn't mean it's literally made out of tinfoil, okay? I don't know if that's where the miscommunication came in, but no, these hats are made from silver. So for the people that know the blocking technology of silver, I mean, it's used in military applications. It's one of the best materials you can use to block all these different types of frequencies, because people were talking about copper versus silver. Silver is absolutely superior to bronze, or to copper. So just want to put that out there. Not to say copper isn't good at blocking, certain frequencies, but it doesn't stand up to silver. That's not a debate. That's for anybody that knows about metals and frequencies. They know that to be 100% true. That's why, like I said, it's used in military applications. But yeah, like I said, if you guys still want the link for their website, just send me a message or comment on the video. I'll send it over to you guys. But if you wait, it should be like by Monday, I'll have my link so you guys can actually go and use my link to get a promo. So I just want to see you guys get a little bit of an extra discount, because their stuff's not cheap because it actually works. And that's the thing that what I found out. People always want to buy cheap stuff, and then they're surprised when it breaks or it doesn't work. Me, I like to spend a little bit more money on quality products. I don't care if it's food or what it is, because I like to know I get my money's worth. But yeah, Haven, great company. I've noticed the weird thing I'm going to explain to you guys is this. I had Tommy Truthful tell me about how he said, did they hit you with the directed energy weapon yet? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, you'll see. And I was like, is that what I get hit with sometimes? Because what's weird is I feel different when I'm in the studio doing shows than I do when I'm not in the studio. It's very odd. Like when I'm actually in here making episodes or doing lives or whatever have you, I've noticed that I feel a little sense of dizziness, more like anxiety's heightened. And it's strange because I never used to have that back, when even the show was blowing up and before they started to throttle me, and I was getting a lot more views. So for me, it's obviously not the best way to explain, like stage fright or something like that, knowing there's more people watching. It's nothing like that. Performing has always been one of my things. Like I have no problem performing. I can be in people know I can be in a whole auditorium of people. I remember I did a speech one time that was in front of a ton of hundreds of people before, and my buddy who's in college for communications, he even said, man, that's why I'm going to college for communications, because he's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I mean, I could be talking to, 5 million people in a crowd or 5 people in a crowd. It really doesn't bother me to do public speaking. A lot of people have issues with that. But then again, like I said, I'm only sitting here talking to a camera right now. So it's definitely nothing to do with that, but it's weird. It does feel like if they're directing something towards me, I notice it more when I'm in the studio. But I have noticed it when I might be out and about or, but in other, places I'm at, I've noticed it more in the studio than anywhere. So that's very interesting, the correlation between that I notice it more when I'm doing these shows and putting this type of information out there than when I'm not. So I find that to be interesting, to be honest with you. But when I wear this hat, I don't feel like that. It seems like I think clearer, I fire on all cylinders more, and I don't have that type of, it's almost like you get a little bit of a fog brain in a sense. It's weird. But yeah, definitely would recommend their hats. I've noticed a difference, and I know it's not a placebo because I'm a skeptic when it comes to a lot of stuff. Like I'm like, this, something doesn't really work. I have to have it proved to me first. So I go into things as a skeptic. And I believe, people that speak on conspiracies and whatnot, you should. You can't just go into anything you hear thinking that there's something going on or there's something nefarious, because a lot of the times there's not. Okay, a lot of times there's a lot of garbage going around and a bunch of BS. But I go into everything with, an open mind. It like, whether it's biblical, whether it's a conspiracy that's out there that people are talking about, I go in with an open mind. I do my research, and then I make up my mind from there. And I decide, this is BS, or, there might be something more to this. But today is something that's, not even on the even cusp of being fringe. It's speaking of a very real drought that has been happening and has now reached levels of the highest it's ever been in recorded history. And that's undeniable. You can go look it up. From lakes receding to, they're showing it all over the country too. And see, what I didn't even know was I was watching documentaries the other day about certain places where they're seeing it more than ever. For example, I was thinking in a sense that only places like Las Vegas, where they're obviously out in the middle of the desert. The place was never set up water-wise to be a place where a bunch of people live, like a city out in the middle of the desert. It was never set up to be that way. So they had to find a way to bring water in through the Hoover Dam, through aquifers and stuff like that, through, like they have Lake Mead. And if you look at what's going on with the water crisis in Vegas, from the Hoover Dam to Lake Mead, it's gotten so bad in Lake Mead, they're finding now bodies in drums from old mafia hits. Because I can only imagine the bodies that got back in the day, dumped in Lake Mead. So it's getting so low. They showed how far it's dropped down past the buoys where boats used to be. The levels have dropped so drastically. It's insane. And then something I never would have thought that I looked into was how Atlanta was set up in Georgia, was never set up or never was meant to be a metropolitan area that could sustain the amount of growth and development that it has. The water system was never set up for that, especially being that it sits on granite. Like, it sits on a lot of granite. So essentially what's happening is they're hitting a marker now where it's like a point of no return. So with the drought that the South is having, well, the whole country's having, like I said, this is unprecedented drought. And I believe, just my opinion, that there is absolutely no coincidence of the correlation between the data centers popping up everywhere across the whole country and how the water is all being drained and how drought is happening. I mean, they can cloud seed. They've admitted to you guys they can cloud seed. Why aren't they sending rain? They're not sending rain. They cloud seed when they want to send, in my opinion, natural disasters like they did in North Carolina. I mean, a freaking hurricane in the mountains, people. Like, come on. Never heard of ever in recorded history. And people act like that's normal. It's absolutely not normal. And people that tell you it's normal don't know what they're talking about. But the water crisis is getting even more worse. But if you notice, they have warned you about this in movies. What was Mad Max about? Okay, what was a lot of this dystopian future movies about? They were about water crises. There's a lot of movies out there about a future with no water, where people are unaliving each other for water. It's been in literature to movies to everything. Now, you can look at it this way. Either people just knew all the way back when they were making these movies that it was gonna, just took a lucky guess, or figured water, because it's so essential to life, that it would become an issue, or the people writing these movies know more than what they're putting on. Because the agendas that are in place, they've been talking about New World Order for a very long time. Go look up every politician that's mentioned the word New World Order. From George Bush Sr. sat right in the Oval Office and said, when we get this New World Order, I mean, you can go look up the videos of these people saying it. They've all said it. Okay? It's not a conspiracy theory when they're actually telling you they are pushing towards a new world order. And I believe that new world order is going to be absolutely one of the biggest parts is controlling resources. Think about it. If you control the food, you control the people. If you control the water, you control the people. So the amount of distractions that are abound right now, because in a sense, I believe people have been uprising too much in a sense, okay? Between the Epstein files, between the war with Iran, between economic, turmoil that we've been in, people are making less money, people are pitching a bitch big time. And just because they're not showing it to you on the news, it's absolutely happening. Like they say, the revolution will not be televised, and it's not. I mean, there's uprisings in Italy. Have you guys been hearing about that? I don't hear nobody talking about that. They're burning their utility bills and saying we're not going to pay utilities. There's uprisings in Ireland right now. They have literally groups popping up that are saying they're not putting up with the migration of immigrants into their country that are, doing very bad things to their women, rape, all types of things that's going on, and they're standing up to it. They're not putting up with it no more. The world is in turmoil, and they're rising up from it. And the news is not telling you anything about it. But what they are doing is they're telling you about all of this stuff that's going to keep you in a perpetual state of fear. Now, talking about a water crisis that's going on, it's not something that's, to fear. It's just something that has to be addressed. So some people will say, this is the way I look at it. They're like, oh, well, talking about this or talking about that is fear mongering. It's not fear mongering if it's the truth. If we can't have an ability to sit down and have discussions about the things that are going on in this world, we are very screwed at that point. Because people are saying, I prioritize my feelings over knowing what's really going on. And we can't have that. Nobody's feelings is above what is going on and addressing it. Okay? Like I'd said in, I think it was the last episode, there comes a time when the children need to be sent out of the room. If you have to act like a freaking child and you're that scared to hear what's going on, I've seen it with my kids. And honestly, what's crazy is I had my 16-year-old can't deal with things more than my 12-year-old can. My 12-year-old, she don't care about nothing, man. Like you tell her, she's like, it is what it is. She's a very strong-minded kid. So it's funny. I have a 12-year-old that honestly, the kid should be on Jeopardy or something. She's got more common sense than most adults I know and can handle things more than most adults can. And we talk about she knows about my show and what I do, but she's very advanced for a 12-year-old little girl. She knows a lot. Like this kid just randomized, fact generator. It's hilarious. But she's very smart for her age, and she'll talk about things that are going on. And it was funny because, what did she say? And she wasn't, because I was thinking she was influenced by the liberal media and stuff like that, because we had a talk and we were talking about Trump and all the stuff that was going on. And she says, didn't I try to tell you, Dad, that he was bad? And I said, yeah, no. I said, but you guys were influenced by, the liberal media and all these whack jobs that were telling you he was a bad man. I said, and I voted for him 3 times. When he did his first term, he was the first president I seen that was actually doing what he said he was going to do. I'd never seen presidents in my lifetime or in the past actually live up to their campaign promises. So that's how he hooked us in. But the fact that people stay hooked in with all this BS, so essentially you guys are inside of a building that people like me are yelling, fire, fire, and there's a fire breakout, okay? And Trump standing outside of the building on a screen in that building saying, oh no, there's no fire, everything's fine. Even if there was a fire, we have the best fire extinguishers. We'll take care of it. There's no problem. You guys have nothing to worry about. Even though you're all inside of a building, well, and like I said, we'll just say like a theater, because like that's what they say. When you yell fire in a theater, you have a duty to stand there, and you can't just yell fire in a theater, everybody runs out. You have a duty to substantiate what you said. So people like me that are warning you guys of what's going on, but you're being gaslit by people like Trump that's saying, oh no, everything's fine, we're all fine, everything's gonna be fine, we're great, stock market's up. And that's the craziest thing I hear too, is that's all that guy talks about is the greatest stock market in the history, it's all-time high. Dude, most of you people out there can barely afford food, let alone to invest in the stock market. So ask yourself, who is that really benefiting? It can benefit people like me, because once it crashes, I'm absolutely going to buy in. But when I see Warren Buffett and Elon Musk and all these other people liquidating their portfolios, when you follow the money, I definitely ain't going to be in the market right now, because I can see what's coming. That's usually what it is. High volatility followed by an insane crash. And all of the points are right there where it's getting set up for the domino effect, and it's going to happen. But that's what's crazy is, like I said, most Americans, because they're eliminating the middle class, aren't even in the stock market. So instead of him addressing, like he first said, oh, the dwindling infrastructure of the United States, the drought issues we're dealing with, instead of addressing these things, and like I'd said, they admitted, we know it. We know the technology exists of cloud seeding. They can send water anywhere they want to send it. Go look it up. It's patented, used by the military, used by our government. Okay, they can create a earthquake, a hurricane. They can do whatever they want with the weather. They can modify it any way they want. So if they can modify the weather, and in my opinion, through the data is proven, then why aren't they sending rain? Are they keeping rain from us? That's what you really have to ask yourself. And then ask yourself, how long has these types of things been in play? And how long have we been ignoring them? But people need to wake up to the fact that this is a big thing I want people to know, okay? Stop sticking up for these people that will never be affected by even a collapse. Because even when things in the bottom fell out during the Great Depression, most people don't realize this, there was people making stupid amounts of money. There was people living lavish lifestyles while everybody else was starving to death, lining up in soup kitchen lines, jumping off buildings because the stock market completely crashed. And the catalyst for all that is setting up. And on another episode I'm going to do, I think I'm going to make it my next episode, I'm going to break down a lot of the indicators that are there from how we're following the same pattern. That's all it really is. That's how people bet in the stock market. That's how people, invest. They bet based off of data and off of charts. And all of the data is there, and it's not pointing to anything good. But like I said, a lot of people say, well, what can we do about it? Well, what you can do about it is at least be informed. Knowledge is power. Until we address this, because not enough people are talking about it. Like I said, this drought's been going on for a long time. But what is everybody else talking about? Oh, the Epstein files, the Epstein files. Well, if you guys ain't going to do anything about the Epstein files, if we're not going to force our politicians to arrest these people, because it is them. That's why they're not going to arrest nobody. It's all of them. They're not going to arrest themselves. They're not going to arrest the judges. The judges ain't going to arrest themselves. These people are all in on it. So they're keeping you distracted with something that you're not going to do anything about and that they're not going to prosecute, instead of looking at other things. So they're really setting you up for the twist big time. And what that means when you're getting set up for the twist, anybody that comes from the streets knows what that means. You're being led into a trap. You're being, we used to call that like if a good-looking girl wanted to take you somewhere and you're from the streets, you know to watch out for that because you're probably getting set up to be robbed. And that's what that is. We have been set up to be robbed over and over and over and over, and we continue to get robbed over and over and over. But people still paying taxes, still being good little citizens, even though we are being systematically destroyed by the people that we supposedly elected into power and to run this country. And as I've said before, if this was a company, these people would be fired. You'd be looking at their annual performance reports and say, your performance has been shit. Like, you got to go. We're firing you. There's no limitations on Congress, which there absolutely should be. And the whole system is being used against us. Not only is it being used against us, it's being reshaped right behind our backs. So that's why, like it says, what are we going to do? And more importantly, what are we going to do? Because this water situation is should be one of the top topics of conversation right now. Not no damn Hanta V, not no any other crap they're pitching on you guys. Alien files, all this other garbage they're pitching on you guys. It's all a major distraction. And I promise you, there's a lot of influencers out there that are talking about it. They're feeding into it. I'll talk about it, but like I'd said, I'm going to go push on to more things that are going to affect us here soon and in the long run. That type of stuff isn't, because it's all BS distractions. But this type of stuff will cripple economies, will cripple civilization, and needs to be talked about. So more than ever, people need to be keeping their eyes open.